Welcome to the S.J. Child Show, where a little bit of knowledge can turn fear into understanding. Enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to the S.J. Child Show today. Oh, this is going to be such a great conversation. I guarantee right off the bat, I already know it. Today I have Jamiel Owens, and we met in probably a way a lot of people meet these days, right?
Yeah.
Through social media. And it's so nice to be able to not only see what other people are doing across the nation, across the world, but be able to offer support and hear the support they're offering for their communities. And so without further ado, Jamiel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Going back to the point that you made, like seeing each other on social media, I have to say you were truly an advocate in this space and in the world, because social media is the world. It's not just, your local
Great.
hometown or what you're doing. I appreciate it. I want to acknowledge it and just say thank you for allowing me to be on your show. I appreciate that.
I am just so honored and excited for you to be here as well. And um, let's get started
Okay.
by first give us an introduction. Tell us, you are in Philadelphia, is that right?
I say I'm in Philadelphia, but I was raised in Philadelphia. I was born in Houston, Texas, raised in North Philadelphia. I now reside in Montgomery County, Hatfield, which is like 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia. But I always tell people in Philadelphia, Philadelphia, that's where I work at. I am an autism father. My son Shane is 15. He's about to be 16 next month. I can't believe it. I'm really here for the fathers, and I recognize that there is a seat at the table that's missing. And a lot of times people say, well, you have to make your seat at the table, and because due to different life circumstances, that can be hard sometimes. So I'm here to not only advocate for them, but also to share my story of how I didn't have that seat at the table, and now I'm going to say, in a lack of better terms, I run the table. But when I run the table, I make sure that everybody is sitting with me so we can all share and understand the connection that we have, in hopes of, bettering and most positive outcome for our loved ones who have autism or so I do represent another population as well. We could talk about that a little bit more, but volunteer firefighter out here. I work at the Center for Autism Research at CHOP as well. I'm the family relations coordinator. Um, Used to be a corrections officer, so I do have law enforcement under my background too. So, jack of all trades. I used to do a lot of different things, but
Wow.
now I'm doing the CHOP thing. I have my own podcast, the Awesome Show, my own nonprofit, Awesomeness Incorporated. So, I keep a little busy.
Oh my gosh. My head's just like, there's so much to talk about. It's fantastic. And oh, first of all, thank you for, showing up as a dad, showing up as your son's advocate, showing up for yourself as other dads advocates. And it's so important. And not only that, to really show that specific role, because sometimes there's a lot of single parents out there. There's a lot of families that might be grandparents that are the guardians and things like
Mhm.
that. But however you are showing up, thank you so much for doing so. And we really, just want to give you gratitude and grace for that for sure. So when was your son diagnosed, at what age, and what did that journey kind of look at like at the beginning for you?
Mm. So Shane was diagnosed at the age of 3. And I remember this. This was like really the defining moment in my advocacy journey, because I was the one that actually started to pick up on a lot of the quirkiness that Shane was doing. And I had the opportunity to relay this information to his mother. My wife, his mother at that time, my wife at that time, his mother. And I explained to her, like, I think something's going on with Shane, things that I can't really explain, but this is not quote unquote normal. So gotta please excuse because I'm keeping it transparent as possible. But at that time I wasn't really
Yeah.
educated on some of the ableism in the language that we suffer from today. So some of the language that I want to express to you is because I'm living in that moment. Still, I see that moment and I reflect on that and I use that as a tool to explain the journey. So me and his mom, we both witnessed those things, those characteristics, and we decided to get him evaluated. And quite honestly, I remember I wrote an article about this. Actually, I was about to go on vacation. I was working in the prisons. I did overnight, and I was literally writing the article to stay up right before I went to vacation and sent it off. And it was about my journey. And I remember having a sense that I wanted to leave. Like I had this gut feeling that it was bad news that they were going to tell me something. And, you know, honestly, as men, we pride ourselves on that alpha male normalcy kind of mentality, saying that if we don't have children that are quote unquote normal or what's deemed normal, we don't want them. We want to start over, and that's what I suffered from. That I was just like, this can't be my child. This is not reasonable. Why do why this happened to me? I've already had a hard life. I don't need anything else. So after receiving the diagnosis, it was a stab to the heart. It was a stab to the ego. My pride was hurt, and unfortunately, like many of us men, we tend to distract ourselves with other things. So the choice of poison at that time for me was going out and drinking and hanging out with friends that I shouldn't have been hanging out with, in order to dilute, for one, the reality in which I'm placed in, two, the blessing in which my son has bestowed upon me. Because God gave me him as a gift to change my life, but I couldn't see it. Three, to ask my partner, his mother, my wife at that time, how are you? What do you need from me? How can we work together in this? And then four, to really stand up as a man and kind of check my ego and not be like a little boy and run away. So, unfortunately, I was in that. I was definitely in that. And tried to use it and escape as a drug sort of, and it never fixed the problem, obviously, because unfortunately we got divorced. Um, which is another, we can go talk about that all day. That's another topic.
Yeah, we're gonna
But
have to have another episode.
yeah, exactly. But that hurt. It hurt. It definitely did hurt. And it took me some years to get out of the stages of grief. I stayed stagnant in one stage of grief. And that really was detrimental to my relationship with Shane, but also to my relationship with the world, because I kind of shunned myself off, because I felt as though I'm embarrassed, but also too that people will stare at my son just like they stared at me and my disability, like I was mentioning earlier. So it's a twofold. I say all of that to say this is that if there is maybe a father watching, listening to this, maybe there's a mother, a wife listening to this, um, it is a lot for a man to deal with a child that is not deemed normal in this society, because we pride ourselves on leaving our legacy. So we automatically think, how am I going to leave a legacy with a child with a disability? Once again, excuse me for the terminology, but with this, and in fact, your legacy will continue to live on and it will thrive through them. Just like it actually thrived in my life through Shane. It actually course corrected my entire life through Shane. So yes, and that's a lot to take in, but I just wanted to get my explanation out there to you.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think that it's so much more relatable than it isn't. And I think that we each of us, no matter what type of diagnosis it could be for, so many different things, but that ultimate initial fear that comes over you, that paralyzing, um, not in control of anything, of any
Mhm.
outcome at that moment. And it is just like, it's agony. And I say that it with the same exact respect to the language, in that, at one point in my early advocacy, I had my husband and I had also shared the feelings that it was like grieving, and it was a really hard process. And we it wasn't until I had interviewed a self advocate who said that when his parents said that they had grieved, he was brokenhearted, and he felt like it was him who had brought this upon them. And it was that in that moment that I went, oh my gosh. And this is the process of learning language. This is the process of learning how we support others and hold their dignity in the same regard, is by making mistakes sometimes, or even having someone in a different perspective share with us, hey, that was hurtful for me. And, now I suffer from having to go through the process of letting that go. And so I quickly, in my kind of practice, started saying, if you can help it, don't ever let your child hear you say those words. But, you can use words like, it's overwhelming. Because boy, that's the truth. And that's
It
not
is.
demeaning to anyone. And it's never was never meant to be demeaning in any way. But the way other people perceive language is so personal. And you and I kind of in this seat that we're sitting at, like you said, have to be really delicate with those types of things. And so I love that you brought that up, because using, like normal and things, I mean, how else can we describe the understanding for someone who has never been in the situation to receive information? Like, where do they start? It's like standing in front of a wall and people are like, just open the door. But it's not until you
Mhm.
back up that you see, oh, there might be a door in front of me, because you're just standing right in front of it.
Exactly. Exactly. So you brought up very two great points that I want to touch on. The first thing is when I go into the grieving stage, so I'm a man of faith. I don't object my faith on anybody, but I'm a Christian. And to understand the grieving part is because you have to die to self. And that is a true living statement. And Shane has showed me that in living proof. We all have a problem with religion, or our spiritual beliefs, because it's not tangible. It's not anything that we can hold. Now they have a Bible app, but still we have questions about that, right? So to be able to be blessed with something tangible that says, yes, you must die to your selfish and cold and wicked heart daily, and don't look for any results or any praises or anything. That's what I mean, that stage of grief. And it's hard for us because we want to hold on to the selfishness. Well, what about me? I need to do this for me. I haven't done this yet. I haven't done that. So, just to clarify, when I say, I was in that grieving, I was in that stage that I didn't want to let go of what worldly aspects I needed to take care of, missing out on the spiritual hierarchy that was right in front of me that I've been blessed with. So that was that one point. The second thing, the term normal, we are basing this term on imperfect people that actually made this term. You have to remember, nobody on this planet is perfect. So we have imperfect people telling us what is normal,
Yeah.
and we are supposed to follow these imperfect people. It's like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, oh, well, you know what, my son is not normal, who said? There's only one person that can say that in my heart, in my eyes, and he made all of us in his image. So to me, I don't care if you're missing two eyes, you're missing the toe, you're missing the arm, you're normal to me. because I could be the one that's actually defective or looked upon as different than everybody else. I don't know that. So I treat everybody with the same respect. I hate the term normal, but we have to use it because we have to use it and compare it to a baseline of what people may think out in the world. And until they are either, God forbid, suffered with a disability, or if they have a loved one that actually has something along those lines, they will never truly understand what I'm talking about. They
Mhm.
will agree with it, but they will truly never understand what I'm talking about. But that's the reason why we do shows like this, is the word out, right? So
Yep.
I
Yep.
just wanted to clear that up. You made two very good points, and I think people need clarification. Once again, we're in this time of making sure our language, again, imperfect people made this dialect for us, so we're following a dialect of compassion, but at a 40%, and I'm going to give it a little bit here. But when you look at some of these other terms and words, they are really hurtful. We have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that 100%. And it kind of goes back to the idea that let's talk more about words and go into the idea of labels. And one quote that we use frequently is, a little bit of knowledge turns fear into understanding. And
Mm,
without that piece of knowledge, that label, that diagnosis, that conception, how else will you treat this individual if you
yeah.
can't understand where they're at, where they're coming from, what supports they may need or, may not need? Like, there's no way to connect with another human person unless you are being open to understanding the wholeness that is them.
Hmm. And that goes again. We can go on and on about this. I hear things all the time. I remember. So I'm a big CHH fan, so Christian hip hop fan, and one of the artists I listened to, Andy Mineo, on the end of one of his songs, he had this lady, and she was talking about the closeness of God, but then she, on another podcast, I think this was her, she was talking about the concept of race and ethnicity, and how this is all a construct with the government, and to be able to track different populations of people all around the world. There is none of that in reality. There really isn't. Is, hey, where are you from? I'm from here. Oh, that's great. Cool. What's your name? And then that's it. It's not black, white, Native
No.
American, other. It's none of that. So I think as a society, when we're talking about individuals who identify with ADA compliance, right, who need additional supports, we need to bring that into the light too. It's not, okay, do you have autism or an intellectual disability, or are you disabled? Is, hey, I notice you have a special gift. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and who you are? What's your name first? Not that, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is Shane. He's an autistic, but this is Shane as a young man. Tell me more about yourself. Oh,
Mhm.
okay. I didn't know you had autism. Can you tell me a little bit more on how that may present as far as you? That's what we need to start doing,
Yeah.
because that goes into, sympathetic. And this is something from the heart. But when we see someone who needs additional assistance, maybe getting on a public transportation vehicle or something, we'll kindly give up our seat to make sure that they have it. But do you truly know that person? You just gave up their seat because of their label, what you can physically see. But do you know that maybe this person runs a Fortune 500 company, or maybe this is the actual newscaster that you listen to on the radio 24/7? You don't know that because you don't identify with who the person is, only the disability. So there's a lot that we can learn about that. I'm very adamant about um ADA compliance, and how it still isn't being supportive of individuals like my son, individuals like me, individuals who may be, in need of more accessibility.
Mm.
It's just something that looks cute, and when it comes to Congress, but our jobs really following that? No, they're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I
I
know
completely
autistic
agree.
individuals who are adults that are struggling, to maintain, to make ends meet, and they are capable just like anybody
Yeah.
else to do the job. But they want to pay, you want to pay these individuals teenage wages.
Yeah.
That's not cool. And it's not just because my son is becoming into that work area. It's for everybody. That's
Absolutely.
just not right.
Mm. No, there's going to be, I think, a big movement of, and I think it is already in place of adult accommodations and transitions being more in the limelight, in being able to showcase what their needs are, and really have these employers show up to with the intent of wanting these individuals as their employees, not to make them look diversified, but to actually, like you said, have the individual be a part of something and have them be a part of that individual's life. And we really need to see that come across so many areas in society. What did it look like for you as far as like family support? Because I think that a lot of families struggle with maybe having, the older generation of grandparents that don't understand or have the idea of autism in a totally different light than what we can uh see its value as today, rather than disadvantages.
So, you have to remember that autism has always been here.
Yeah.
The term was actually coined in the 1940s. Australian, psychiatrist was Leo Kanner, and Hans Asperger both worked together, and they basically helped coin the term autism. So 1940s to now, obviously, that's a long span of time. It has always been here. I think we as autism parents, or how I like to call ourselves, awesome parents,
Mhm.
need to realize that the first thing we need to look for is support within our family. That's the hard conversation. That's the conversation where if you're, in your 20s or your 30s, or maybe even, it happens in your teenage years, you sit mom and dad down, or mom or dad, whatever the case may be, grandparents, and you say, okay, um, give my son's name for example, Lil Shane, it has been diagnosed with this. Do you guys understand what it is? And if they're like, oh no, and you go down with the clinical terminology and everything in it, and with the older generation, oh, there's nothing wrong with my baby. He's all right. He'll just grow out of it. No, we have to get out of that mentality. That hurts. That hurts a lot of children,
Yeah.
because we stall out on services believing that our children are going to grow out of autism. Our children are not science experiments. What they are a embrace of changing and humanity, that is for the better. Nothing from Shane exudes anything that's horrible in his life. Actually, he makes me want to be a better person because of his heart, how
Yeah.
big it is, and how much they want to help people and just be social and just be accepted by other people. But it was, for me personally, I didn't have a relationship with my dad in my earlier years up to age 23. And then he actually looked for me and came into my life. So my background is really crazy. But he accepted me. And, when that time came for me to explain what was going on with his grandson, he accepted him. It was difficult for him because he's in that era of older conception. The R word, the hated R word that is still being used today, unfortunately. He had to get that out of his mindset. And once again, he had to learn who Shane was as his grandson. Who is he as his grandson? So it wasn't just, hey, dad, you know what? Shane, has been diagnosed with autism. Here go the clinical explanation of it. Good luck.
Yeah.
No, it was really me feeding information into him. But it was also the power of social media. My dad actually saw how I interacted with my son. And he took that as a lesson like, okay, my son is interacting with his son, my grandson, And this is what he's saying about Shane. So he started to learn more and more about Shane through social media and then obviously personal connection and who he was. So my transition was very, very easy. I have to acknowledge that other people don't have the same transition. They're faced with ignorance, they're faced with lack of education, lack of connection due to a fact of a diagnosis. Um, it doesn't your overall outcome, whatever that may be, you're seeing the plan for your child down the road doesn't depend on the understanding of your family. You
Mhm.
actually do that out of a courtesy for them,
Yeah.
saying, hey, I would like for you to be in our world, but in order for you to be in our world, you must understand how we are now, because it's not just how my child, but how we are. Because once your child is diagnosed or receives that label, you have now just inherited that label. You are a part of his or her world. So I want to introduce you into our world and how we do things, because now you're removing yourself from this world. You're doing things in a totally different light and looking at the world in the same eyes as your child too.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me. I can't complain at all. It was,
Great.
but I do want to recognize other people don't have that luxury.
Yeah. And yeah, we didn't unfortunately, and for many, many years felt kind of like an island of four in our, home state with our other family members, that we couldn't attend parties with them. We couldn't do so many other things. We couldn't, go to grandparents' house, or get babysitters, or go on dates, or things that we just had to kind of realize. We know what we deserve, what where our value is as a family, as individuals. Like, we'll give it to each other. And then you find, through, luckily, these types of communities that we've been building,
Mm-hmm.
so much support. And that was a big turning point, I think, for us, is that it had been just like years of isolation, schools telling us they couldn't help him because his academics were too high above what they could handle. But him needing these huge, communication and social skill supports, and just being able to have to kind of maneuver it and make it up as I went along,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And so, yeah, it's definitely been something that, it's almost like I've been able to create my own home programs. Like, we live in our own world, set on our own time limits. Society doesn't tell us when dinner is, when we go to sleep, when, yes, we have to do things like this on a time frame that's
Yeah,
accessible
yeah.
for others. But in our own interpersonal life, we honor one another's biological identity, and being able to, if you're tired, go take a nap. Like, respect your body, like, respect the body's response to what you need,
Mm-hmm.
because it does look different for everyone. And I think society, is in general, doesn't, they still think it should be 9 to 5 and sleep from 10 to 6 and da, 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 da. It's just like, no. That's not the case.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah. So when you then, he went into school, did he go to school? I should ask you that. I mean, we haven't been able to have a school experience. So what did that look like for you?
So, first off, and I say this with all due respect, but then again, I say it just as it is. The school system sucks countrywide. The
Yes,
school system sucks.
absolutely.
Now, to the educators, the teachers, you guys are the heroes.
Incredible.
But I want to acknowledge that you are not giving the tools in order to help our children. So we're not mad at you. We're mad at this school system,
Yeah.
which was first started in 1854, if I have my years correct. That was the first school here, because I did a whole presentation. I went down to Vanderbilt university, and I presented to these bunch of doctors and scientists, because they were saying, why can't we get people on research and retain them? Because you're doing it wrong. Because you have to realize is that they're not another number or a code of digits, but they're actual people. And you have to build a relationship as healthcare organizations. You have to build a relationship that has been tarnished by a natural disaster named COVID. Wasn't anybody's fault, but the disconnect between the medical organizations and citizens has been made. We did not trust anything that was happening with this whole situation. So now the connect has to happen. That's a whole nother topic. Let me not get off. But the school systems are not in line to accept our children. Once again, they're placing, all right, so the Constitution of the United States, there are amendments which are attachments to the Constitution because, in all respect, they cannot change what the Constitution says. This is the same thing that's happening to our children. They have their school system, they have everything that has been generated from the early 1800s, 1900s, whatever the case may be, and they're attaching our children who do not fall in a line of individuals who are and once again, excuse the terminology, mentally retarded, or those who are intellectually compromised. They are very intelligent, so they fall in that gray space. So you can't place my child in a classroom of peers whose IQ are below my child's IQ and expect for him to navigate that system correctly. It's just not going to happen. So once again, excuse my language to those who may be offended. I didn't want to, but I wanted to get my point across.
Yeah.
System sucks. The country needs to do better by it, and they have to, because the statistic shows that autism is prevalent. It's here.
Yeah. One
With
in
that being said,
26, right? I know.
a lot of cases, we were one. Philadelphia, we were very concerned about finding a school for Shane. We actually found a pre-K program that was like a neighborhood school. And I called them and I was terrified. And I was like, hey, you know what? We have our son. We're interested in your school. But there's one catch. And then, I never forget this gentleman name. The owner is Bob. I don't know if he's still there, but shout out to Bob. Well, Bob was like, all right, talk to me, Dad. And I'm like, well, my son, he's been diagnosed with autism. So some of the supports will need to come into your daycare to help him out. He's like, that's not a problem. He's like, that's cool with me. Just let me know who they are so we can make sure we have them checked. And that's cool. Not a lot of places did that back then.
Yeah.
So I was me and his mother was very thankful. We went in there. Now, the other situation was finding people who actually care about your child. So those individuals who are working these positions, coming in and actually caring about the well-being of your child. I had to actually step in as my child's aide one time, and that was for 3 weeks because the aide that the organization has sent out wasn't doing her job at all, was not caring, and the staff at the school, the pre-K, told us like she's not doing
Mm.
well. So we got rid of her. Unfortunately, we had to. And
Yeah,
I
has
actually
to happen.
stayed in the classroom. So everybody knew me as Shane's dad because I was always there just in circle time. I had him on my lap. We was listening to circle time. It was the funniest thing ever. But once again, I got to experience that, right? So I got to be able to experience that to be able to sympathize where I'm at
Mm.
currently today and know that it can be done. Um, Graduated. He was actually with his peers. He was soaking up so much knowledge, and then going into the next level of school, elementary. We hit a road bump, and we explored. I'm not going to say the organization's name out of respect for them, but we enrolled Shane into that school, thinking that it would be better for him. And it turned out that he was actually absorbing a lot of the negative attributes of
Mm.
his peers
Yeah.
in that specialized school,
Yeah.
and we were seeing it. So me and his mother, at that time, we were going through a divorce. She moved to Delaware County outside of Philadelphia and got him into an amazing school district out there that he's been since elementary up until now. And
Wow.
when I tell you he has thrived, I remember one day in particular, I was picking them up, and we had to go back inside the building, and everybody was like, "Hi, Shane. Hey, what's up, Shane? What's going on?" And I'm looking like all these older kids, and I'm like, "These kids know you?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "They're cool. They're my friends." And I was like, it's like a parent's blessing. Like we love to hear that.
Yeah.
So I have. I've been once again, I've been blessed, and I have to give that to his mother, because if she never made the move, and it's an unfortunate thing that mothers and families have to uproot themselves in order for a proper education for their child. In this
Yeah.
case, if it wasn't for her, unfortunately, Shane probably wouldn't be in the best condition that he is today. So he is doing very, very well. And once again, I say this over and over again: the system is broken. The
Yeah.
system is not designed for our children at all.
Mhm.
And that goes into that transition. We're falling through the cracks
Mhm.
tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. Does he have what are his life skills like? Does he struggle with any skills as far as, home skills or community? Will he get a driver's license? Like kind of what level is he at there?
So we have talked with him being 16.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about, working papers from school, doing some part-time work, and a junior driver's license, a permit.
Yeah.
So I talked to Shane, and I've been talking to him man to man. That's what I say. It's like, Shane, we're going to talk man to man. Even when I'm reprimanding him for something and I'm like, look at me in my eyes, eye contact. Put your hands down. I'm going to respect you and have my hands down. I'm going to give an equal amount of space. I'm going to talk to you in a very low baritone voice, and I'm not going to use any abusive language. I'm just going to talk to you to try to understand who you are. And it has been successful for me all of these years. And I asked him, like, all right, so about driving. What do you think about driving? He's like, you know what? I think I want to wait until at least 17. Okay, respectable. That's fine. When you're ready for it, we have options. Either I can get you into a driving school, or if you would like for me to help you learn, I can definitely do that. And, I said, you don't have to give me an answer now, but just let me know. I said, but when you're in the car with me, just like I learned actually by watching my mom. I never studied the book or anything. I always watch my mom, and I passed the test.
Yeah.
And I said, look at what daddy does. If daddy does something wrong, call me out on it. Let me know what I did wrong, but look at exactly how I am and look at your surroundings. The social skills part we're working on. Shane is social. He's social with older adults, just like many of our children. They
Yeah.
cling to older adults. So he likes talking to older adults or people who are interested in change, just like him. You were working on his peers, how to be social, but he starts conversations. He warms up to the room. Um, just like all of our kids, neurotypical and neurodiverse, has no concept of money. If you gotta work for money, you gotta work in order to get paid. But he's getting that because we installed in the household. And parents, don't be afraid to do this. Chores, old school methods. Hey, you do this chore. This is how much you want to get for doing this chore. We installed that in the household, and I let them know, like, listen, things that help benefit you, like making sure your hygiene is together, um, cleaning up your bathroom space. That's your personal thing. That's what you should be doing. You're not going to get paid for that. But doing the dishes for the household, taking out the trash, those are things that I'll be glad to pay you for. But things that you should be doing as a young man to maintain your own space, because that's the ultimate goal for you to have your own apartment, you're not going to get paid for that. You'll get kudos. It'll look great. Something that, I see in there that maybe you need to brush up on as far as cleaning. I'm going to direct you on that, but you're not going to get any accolades for that. Um, and parents got to keep in mind this can be placed in an IEP, and it needs to be taught unilaterally, not only just the educators, but at home too, in order
Yeah.
for an effective system to be in place. It
Yeah.
has to. We talk about attraction to the opposite sex, very important. Our children are very obsessive. If they see someone they like, they're going to obsess over them.
Yeah.
I, I get it, but great analogy that I heard was it's a game of tennis. Take the ball, you serve the ball. Hey, my name is Shane. What's your name? Oh, I think you're beautiful. I would love to get to know you a little bit. Oh, you know what? I'm okay. That ball never came back over to you. So you know what that means?
Game
Move on.
over.
That's it. Right?
Yep.
Right?
I
So
love it. I love
tell him
it.
I tell him all the time to do that. So Shane is he's doing well. He's doing well. Obviously, we do recognize that our children, even though they present an age as 15, their conscious may be presenting of a 13-year-old or a year back or 2 years back. So I keep that in mind all the
Yeah.
time. He's progressing. He's progressing
Yeah.
on his speed, and he's understanding more and more. And I'm there to answer those questions and kind of direct them if
Mm,
I see him veering off. So
I
I
love
can't
that.
complain about that. He's really, really, really fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely is fortunate. I agree. Let's talk about what kind of, obviously this has all brought you to the passion that you have in now doing community work. And let's talk a little bit about that and the work you do in the community now.
So it's crazy because I always wanted to protect people. So from earlier on, I did armed security in Philadelphia for like bars, clubs, venues. I always did that. Then I went into corrections. Then coming up here, I became a volunteer firefighter, which I still am. And it has never satisfied me as much as what I'm doing right now. I'm protecting people. I'm helping people, which is that's what I want. But as far as my true calling, this is my true calling. So my title is family relations coordinator. And basically what I am is outreach. So I go out in the communities, I let them know about what we do at the Center for Autism Research at CHOP, our research opportunities, but also too, which has been a prime directive by our infrastructure staff and our director, is we are a resource. We can't be a healthcare organization in middle of one of our most underserved communities in Philadelphia and not serve them, not know what their wants and needs are. So my job is to seek out in those neighborhoods that oftentimes are very hard to get into because of what's going out in society, unfortunately, racism and things of that nature. I'm here to connect all of us. So my job is to understand and meet people where they're at, to sympathize with them. I do more because I tell them my story. Like, listen, I don't have a degree. I don't have a PhD, but this is what I do have live experience. And this is my story. And I break down those barriers and those walls. Simple equation. Simple equation. I sometimes people just make it very hard. And it's like, no, empathy plus compassion equals results. That's it. That's the equation right there. Um, and it to me, when I sit back and I look, I don't think my manager or my director thought like really what they were getting when they invested in my position with me, is because it's not the run of the mill following what everybody else is doing. Is actually thinking outside of the box, innovative ways, not only speaking for the neurodiverse community, but befriending the neurodiverse community. I have many friends that are self advocates who are autistic themselves. And I learn from them each and every encounter, each and every day. I learn from them. That makes me a better advocate for myself, for my son, and for them as well. Putting on events, putting them together with other community organizations, entities within the community that are either embedded in this space or would like to be embedded in this space, and really making sure that parents and families are being connected with the right resources. That's what my job is. So when you do something you love, you really don't work. You just ask for more time. You wish it was more time and more things that you can do for people. And that's where I'm at. But I love what I do. People ask me what you do. I tell them what it is. And, yes, I get paid. But you know what? It's a job where I'm like, this is something for my son. So he's
Yeah,
going to see this. He's going to benefit directly from all the work that I'm doing, along with all the other amazing people like yourself, like doing in this community. I'm just one little speck, a part of this big molecule that we're trying to create for
exactly.
everything. So, yeah,
Love
it's
it.
this is amazing. It's amazing.
It is. It is amazing. And it's so cool that we have this ability through the internet to be able to connect with so many people, because how else would we have ever been able to meet each other, to get to know what we're doing and know that we're kind of on, the same page. We're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to kind of get the same results with the broken education system, with the
Mhm.
fact that schools need to allow better, companies to come in and give aid to our children. The
Mhm.
fact that ADA appliances compliance is not being met across the
Mhm.
board, and there is just so much, so much to do, and so it feels like few people are, to do it. But really, like you said, when we can come together like this, when we can meet and when we can bring each other together in events and things like that, you really can see the power of how it's going to make these movements happen. So we can only hope for the best, I think, in that case. What tell us about your podcast so people can go and listen and hear about that.
I'm always shy because people, my wife tell me all the time, she's like, you should definitely be proud of your accomplishments. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not doing it for the limelight. So,
Yeah.
that's just, I'm just like, I'm doing it. I've been doing it. Actually, the podcast was started back in 2014. So over a decade of
Oh,
really doing stuff to represent the Awesome Show. So I have the
I love it.
logo. That's the logo of the
Oh,
Awesome
that's
Show. It's like faded out
great.
a little bit, but
Yeah.
um, that's an actual picture of me and Shane. We were on our way to Great Wolf Lodge, and a follower, because I started the social media page first before anything, and I was just putting out videos and content and what I stood for and the reason behind it. And he reached out to me and was like, "Listen, I'm not an autism father. I don't have anybody directly affected by autism, but I believe in you so much, and I think what you're doing is great." And he's like, "Can I make your logo?" And I'm like, yeah. So he made my logo. He was like, "Do you have a picture?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have a picture of me and Shane." And he basically cartooned us and put the
Love
awesome
that.
show underneath of it. So that's where that came from. And then later on now with the nonprofit Awesomeness Incorporated. But the awesome show, I just felt like I needed to do more. I was doing, Autism Speaks Walk. I raised a lot of money for that. I was coming up with creative campaigns, and I was very proud of myself, but I felt like there needed to be more. More people needed to hear me. So I ran into acquaintance, excuse me, of an old friend who did an online radio show, and I was like, "Listen, this is my show. I think it will be a good fit for your online platform. What do you think?" And he was like, "Okay." So it was going to cost you like 250 every 2 weeks, which I did not have. I really didn't have.
Whoa.
Yes. So I paid that every 2 weeks,
Oh,
and I
wow.
came into his studio, which was in the middle of North Philadelphia. Every Saturday morning, my show was on from 9 to 10, no, 9 to 12. And what I did was I solicited all the guests. I researched all the content. So what I found, different topics that I thought about that I wanted to know about, or things that I heard while doing community events that people were asking me or wanted to know about. I touched on those guests. I solicited all that, even the music. The music was all music that you could listen to with your child. So you wouldn't have to worry about profanity, anything crazy. It was just feel good music. And I did that for about a year, until I moved up here right before COVID, and then I stopped doing the show. But then me and a good friend of mine, Ben Hartraff, we did a show called the Ben and Jay Show, and it was sponsored by Access Services, and we did that, and we met the directors from Hero Elementary. We met one of the Baldwin brothers who has a child with autism. We met so many amazing, famous people, through that venture. And then my wife was like, "Well, when are you bringing back the Awesome Show?" And I was like, "Well, you know what? You're right." So I bring it back once again, online, using online platforms, so social media to do the interviews, IG. And then after that, I got an invitation to do online television. So the Awesome Show was actually on online television about 2 years ago, a local television station here in New Jersey. So I did the television show with that, and then once that the owner of the company, the television station, he said, "I actually have a nephew that has autism. So I believe so much in your cause. I want to give you 30 shows for free." I didn't pay anything. He just gave me 30
Wow.
episodes for free. I said, great. So I had guests on there. I did my thing with that. Then I came back after that and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just continue the podcast, which is I try to keep up with it, but I get to the point where now I have to.
Yeah.
Then a fellow firefighter out of New Jersey who follows me on social media, they have a Christian radio network called Wiz Radio. Shout out to DJ Wiz, and he was like, I think your show would be good for my platform. So now I'm on Wiz Radio every Saturdays from 9 to 10 o'clock. And that's online radio. So now the awesome show is now still a podcast on Spotify, Apple
Wow.
Podcasts, wherever you podcast at. And then now you'll be able to hear me on Wiz Radio as well too. So
Oh,
I'm definitely blessed. I didn't think that that would happen, but we're still pumping out great conversation, great topics to talk about. My last podcast episode was talking about sexual abuse in the autism community. It's a real
mm,
thing.
yeah.
I took a certification class for sexual abuse in general in the neurotypical community, and you have to think about, okay, well, what about autistic individuals, non-speaking, speaking, those that need more supports, those with limited supports. It's a lot of, unfortunately, it's a lot of sexual abuse going on with our children,
Mm,
and we have to be cognizant of that. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Wow, that's a lot of work. And it's really a test to, I can completely just resonate with this 100%. That one moment that universe, God, everything that is, you say, I need a louder voice. And then guess what? Boom. You know what I mean? You're just like here, 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 and here, and here. And now I'm like, my fingers in all the cookie jars now.
mhm,
I get my taste
mhm.
of all the cookies. No, it's great. And it really totally, totally started with just that one idea and that one cry kind of out to
Yeah,
my husband. I need a louder voice. Like I can't, things have to change in society. They have to listen. And here we are today, right? 100 and 270 interviews later,
look at
and
that.
here
That's
we
a lot.
go.
That's a lot. That is a lot. Trust me, from one creator to the next, that is a lot. You should be very, very proud of
Thank
yourself.
you.
That
And
is a lot.
so much I've learned. I've learned so much, and I'll continue to. Like my journey on this earth, I love that I can be an advocate and be a teacher or be a support system or a resource for anyone, but especially I just want my kids to know eternally that like I I'm their ride or die. I got their back.
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
here. I'm gonna stick up for you in every and any way possible. And when you want me to back up, I'll do that too. I've
Yeah.
already, I have a 24-year-old. I already know
Oh
when I gotta
man.
back up. So it just kind of goes like that. That's great. Where can we go to find all of this amazing information to engage with you, and to support you?
So this is another thing I hate to talk about, but yeah, you can. I forgot to mention that I'm an author too. So I have books. You can't see it because it's fading out. But my first book on Amazon is called "Life is a Puzzle." God gave you a cheat sheet. This is really special to me. For one, I completed this book in a week. It took another week to edit it and to go through it. So a total of 2 weeks, this book was made. So that's on Amazon.com. You just type my
Amazing.
name, Jamiel Owens, Jamiel, middle initial D, and then Owens, and then it'll come up. Make sure it's not Jamie Owens because that happens a lot of times too. And then I was actually I have 7 books, so I have 7 books
I
on
do
Amazon.
too, Jamil.
See, there you go.
What
See,
people have 7 books? You and me. I'll tell you what.
so 7
Two peas
books.
in a pod.
Exactly. We're good. You're part of the awesome family. We're good. We're two like minds out here grinding and doing what
Sure.
we need to do. 7 books, 4 contributing articles on the internet, and then I also contribute to this book, Superheroes on the Spectrum,
Oh,
that just came
lovely.
out from Reverend Jeanette Paxia and Dr. Crystal Morrison. I'm actually in this book with 33 other amazing self advocates, advocate authors in here. So definitely check that out. That's on Amazon as well. But also the Awesome Show. So if you go on to Instagram or Facebook, it's TheAusomeshow. So if you're on IG, that's all together. But if you're on Facebook, regular The Awesome Show. But I also too, I tell a lot of people, I'm one phone call away. So for a dad or father, a male figure going through things because I didn't have that space, you can definitely reach out to me. My email for at work is Owens Owens, J's and James, D as in David at chop.edu. And also too, my phone number, area code 445-247-2071. I believe that's very important, especially in this day where people need instant gratification, and that goes for emergencies as well too. So to prevent another divorce, to prevent unfortunate thoughts of suicide or other things, I'd rather give out my information for someone to give me a call directly rather than say, oh, well, just leave me an email and I get back to you in a day or two. It may not be that simple. So anybody can reach out to me. That's just how I am. Open book, try to be.
Love that. Oh, what an amazing, amazing, awesome hour that it has been. Thank you so, so, so much. And I'd love to invite you back because I think that we
Weird.
really could cover so many more topics and really get deep into some other ideologies and things. So would love to have you back on. Thank you so much
Definitely.
for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to stay in touch. And for those of you who also are on our social media pages, you can go check out the SJ Child Show and also the pages that you can find that Jamiel shares his things are the Advocates, Autism Advocate Support Group, and Autism Events info. I don't I'm like, wait, what is that page name? But yeah, just go check out the show notes. I'll make sure to put all the links in so you can go follow it everywhere. So thank you so much, and we look forward to staying in touch.
Of course.